just lubricate the throat to do some serious reading. Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Ray, What Ray Reads. Follow me on Instagram and follow me on TikTok, or I'll haunt you in your dreams. So we're back for another video. It's a bit of a different one today. There's no book recommendations, but it is book adjacent, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot for the past few weeks, actually for probably over a year now. And it's to do with the book community and their determination to continue reading and promoting and celebrating problematic authors. Seriously need to have a word with ourselves. So before we get started, disclaimer, this video is going to be very conversational. It's going to be very chatty. I did set out to do a video essay, but then it became a bit more of a discussion, if you will.
Oh no, it was coming up again. Word vomit.
I just feel that the book community really needs to have a word with itself on the continued support, celebration, amplification, and just platforming of authors that have shown us time and time again that they're not very nice people. But in particular, I'm talking and thinking about one person in particular, and that is J.K. Rowling. I feel like J.K. Rowling's so prominent in pop culture that it's difficult for me to think people don't already know who she is in some sense. But if you're not familiar, she's the author of the prominent, incredibly popular book series Harry Potter. That spawned multiple movie franchises, stage productions, merchandise, theme parks, and just anything that can be monetized essentially. So JK was kind of seen as an incredibly down-to-earth, influential multi-millionaire.
I have to laugh.
But the past few years she's become known for something else entirely. A TERF. Again, for those who don't know, a TERF is trans exclusionary radical feminist, and we don't with them. Not on my channel. So you may be thinking, Rachel, what does this have to do with a children's author? I'm glad you asked. Well, in recent years, JK's become more known for what she chooses to post constantly on the app Twitter than doing any actual writing. You know, for an author, she's certainly not doing much writing other than the character limit of Twitter. And on Twitter, she's just constantly tweeting derogatory things about the trans community and punching down. And the level of attention that she's been getting from these tweets has just completely overshadowed any sort of work. And I feel like nowadays a lot of people will know her as that woman who's always tweeting horrible, nasty things instead of, oh, that woman who wrote that children's book.
She's got a point.
And it's starting to, that's going to be the legacy that she's remembered for. Yet still, I constantly see her work being shared on my TikTok, on my Instagram, and I'm heavily in the book community on both of those platforms. And even on BookTube, to some extent, I'm still seeing people share her books, read her books. And I'm just like, do these controversies really have an impact on the authors? You know, we're constantly hearing that people are getting cancelled and the careers are getting ruined, but from what I'm seeing, nothing's getting ruined, and people certainly don't seem to be bothered about what she stands for when they're continuing to support her and her work. And this is something I've been thinking a lot of lately, because unfortunately JK isn't the only prominent author that's come under fire for specific comments and targeting of the trans community. And this author also seems dead set on her legacy being that of someone who wants to be harmful to another community. So that's kind of leading me to what made me want to make the video in the first place. So last week the Women's Prize for Fiction long list was released, and there was a lot of discussion in the book community and fury, to be honest, for the inclusion of the author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And if you're not aware, she's a prominent Nigerian feminist author who rose to popularity in around 2014 for her book We Should All Be Feminists. And if you're still like, oh, I don't know who that is, and I don't know what that book is, you may be aware that Beyonce sampled her words and voice in her 2013 song Flawless.
We teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. feminist, a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes.
And Adichie really made a name for herself as a prominent feminist author, and her books largely focus on women, gender, racism and identity. But it's her latest work and book, Dream Count, that's put her back in the spotlight with its inclusion in the Women's Prize. And if you're thinking, Rachel, what's the big deal? It's just a Women's Prize. Well, it is a big deal in the book community because it's a very prestigious, prominent prize, with the winner going on to receive £30,000. And in all honesty, I wasn't really aware of her views or her work that much, other than that one popular book that she released. But her name kept popping up on my feed and there were people sharing the thoughts, and there was just a massive backlash in the Women's Prize comments on social media, and it was specifically for her inclusion. But again, if you're like me and you weren't that aware of what the issue was, in 2017, Adichie made transphobic comments in a televised interview with Channel 4, I believe. And when people were inevitably disappointed and pushed back and informed her that her comments were really quite bigoted and hurtful, she doubled down and was claiming cancel culture, and even took to her own blog where she was referring to people who were upset with her views as snowflakes. Regarding this incident, writing for Vulture, Sanjaya Sathian speaks on Adichie's uncompromising tone-deaf stance and targeting of the trans community. She says, lost in the shuffle were the artistic implications of her post, which read less like the work of a thoughtful, curious fiction writer and more like the ranting of your average, excessively online TERF. If that wasn't enough for you, she received support from Piers Morgan. So there's that. I mean, if you've got the likes of Piers Morgan in your corner, I think you might need to readdress your point and your views. Okay. Adichie's also doubled down on her attacks again and defended Queen TERF, J.K. Rowling, decrying that JK was simply a victim of sexism and further defending her transphobic comments.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
As perfectly reasonable. So for inclusive readers who like to make sure they're reading broadly and reading from a vast array of stories and voices, and it's important for them to engage with authors that are very aware of the platform they have, this has really impacted their relationship to Adichie and her writing and her books, and many have been choosing not to support her work purely for this reason and her basic lack of intersectionality and blatant hate towards a marginalised community, which leads me back to the book community's issue with the Women's Prize, including Adichie's Dream Count in their long list. So all this kind of again got me thinking of the support JK still gets and how she went from being a beloved children's author with a rags to riches story, vocally advocating for people less fortunate than herself, and she became kind of quite political, to becoming the most prominent spokesperson for TERFs, constantly getting into Twitter arguments, attacking small creators, and most recently and disturbingly celebrating Trump signing an executive order to ban trans athletes from certain women's sports, even sharing a picture that will forever haunt me in my dreams of Trump, a convicted sexual predator, in a room surrounded by lots of young children.
No, ma'am.
And I mean, for someone who claims to care about women's safety and making spaces safer for women, she certainly seemed quite happy and celebratory letting young girls in a confined space with a convicted felon. Just saying, seriously though, like, does this woman have hobbies? Babes, you wrote a hugely popular book series that have been adapted into multiple film franchises. You're raking in money, but you sat on Twitter every day in your mould-ridden house being a hateful troll. Don't you want to get a life? You want to get a hobby, take up knitting, So I suppose all of this rambling's kind of to say, I've been thinking, like, why do we continue to support this woman and her work? It's continuously like getting platform shared, romanticised, and it seems like nothing will stop people from reading these books that she was once known for. Like, she hasn't written a decent book in years. She's known for being a transphobic troll on Twitter. Yet every Christmas or cozy season or autumn, all the people in the book community have got Harry Potter out and they're all romanticising it in cozy settings. And you're like willingly choosing to support someone and showcase their work when she believes a marginalised group of people don't deserve rights. And I'd like to think in my mind that the people who are reading her books are these same, how shall I word this, readers who think reading isn't a political activity and were saying so when Trump was re-elected on Book Talk in 2024.
So I'm not sure when Book Talk became Politic Talk.
I can actually answer this really quickly. Reading has always been political because ideas are political. Education, the kind you get from reading books, is a tool for liberation. Furthermore, they're banning books. They're banning books. Esty, what are you talking about?
They were saying, oh, reading's not political, let's keep this a safe space. No! Who's going to tell them? Who's going to tell them? But yeah, I think, oh, maybe it's these type of readers who like to live in a bubble, but unfortunately it's not. It's people who claim to be allies, claim to care, that still allow this woman to make huge profits, continue to go unchecked, continue to have a huge platform. And it reminded me of this video that I seen on Instagram, I think, that really captured what I'm trying to say.
I find it really disappointing when people I mutually follow online, people who have large followings themselves, publicly share and promote Harry Potter, going to the studios, buying Harry Potter related merch. Because I personally don't think that you can claim to be a trans ally and then publicly share to such large audiences, influencing them to buy into the Harry Potter franchise. You are encouraging people to buy products from a franchise that directly lines the pockets of one of the most prolific transphobes there is at the minute. And with her stating directly things like this, I read my most recent royalty checks and find the pain goes away pretty quickly. To keep these creations relevant while JK Rowling is still profiting off of them is to keep JK Rowling relevant, and to keep JK Rowling relevant is to keep her views relevant.
And again, it's this whole, oh, let's separate the art from the artist. This is something that I read about in the book by Claire Dodera, Monsters, A Fan's Dilemma, which I read last year. And in it, she basically uses prominent artists as case studies, if you will, for what we do when we want to engage with art, but the people who created it are horrible people or monsters. And she used the likes of Michael Jackson, Roman Polanski, Woody Allen as examples. In all honesty though, I didn't really love the book because I felt like she was tiptoeing around the issue and seemingly just wanted to be sort of vocal about the issue but still engage with it. I mean, you do you, boo. But for me, it's a no. I'm not someone who can switch that part of my brain off and be like, do, while that person's committed like heinous acts. And I'm just over here like, I'm sorry, I can't. Because I'm always like thinking, where'd you draw the line? Like, we've all got a line. I don't care what anyone says. Even the biggest, separate the art from the artist. They will have a line. But the truth of the matter is, they just simply don't care about specific issues. If issues of homophobia, transphobia, racism, SA, rape, then where's your line? Because I'm starting to question your morals, babes. And I think if you're going to continue to engage in works with people that have been revealed to be terrible people, then you're going to get questioned. You're going to get asked, what is it that you love so much that you will push aside their terrible behaviour? Because people will question you, especially for people who've been able to continue a career and make money and go on relatively unscathed in the industries. Because as I said, you will have a moral line, but it's what impacts you. A lot of the time you don't care if it's not impacting you directly because that person or that group over there doesn't really infiltrate you. And that's the hard truth, unfortunately, and the sad truth. And although I did have issues with Dodera's book, and I felt like she was going round in circles a lot, there was a quote that she said in the book that stood out to me. in which she's talking about how people being held accountable for the behaviour start decrying cancel culture, and they tend to go on the attack towards it. She says the very term cancel culture is hopelessly non-useful, with its suggestion that the loss of status for the accused is somehow on par with the suffering endured by the victim. And I think that can get lost a lot in, you know, the back and forth and the reporting. People forget that there's someone, a real person, who is at the centre of this, that are dealing with the fallout, and it's actually impacting them. It may not impact you, we've already established you don't care, but it's impacting them. What makes us uncomfortable when people push back or share the concerns about specific issues that these artists, writers, etc. have done is that it requires us to look deeper at ourselves and our morals and how we carry ourselves through the world and how we connect and engage with art and literature, and why we're so steadfast on like defending and supporting the people because we love it. It's kind of just like a bit of a privileged like take to have. I love it, therefore I don't care. So again, I'm brought back to JK and Harry Potter and the Harry Potter world, which still rakes in a lot of money, and it's probably the thing she's still getting lots of royalties for. Writing for Vox, Asia Romano questions whether Harry Potter will ever be untainted again by JK's new image as head TERF. And as once a fan of her work as a child, they struggle to find the love and comfort in the world that they once did. They say, for me, a non-binary Harry Potter fan who spent more than 2 decades loving Harry Potter, recounting all of this is deeply hurtful, even traumatic. Every new reminder that JK Rowling harbours such hateful views towards trans men and women, one of the most vulnerable and endangered marginalised communities, hits me like a slap. It's a painful betrayal from a creator I loved and trusted. Many people who are attached to JK and the world she created in Harry Potter are sort of defensive of it because they loved it so much as children and it's really nostalgic for them. And then they've grown up on the films and with the actors in the films. So there's a big thing with people seeing Harry Potter as deeply sort of attached to the childhood nostalgia. And I do see the films as a little tiny bit separate to JK. Obviously it's based on her books, but a different creative force created that world in the films, and the actors, it's more of a vehicle for the actors, and I know a lot of the actors don't agree with what she says. But at the end of the day, she's still getting money from those films, from people renting the films, from the films being shown. She's still raking it in. But nostalgia aside, you're still supporting a person who's spent the latter half of a career being hateful and quite literally punching down on an already marginalised and regularly attacked group of people. And Romano goes on to say, I believe that most people, even if they don't understand the ins and outs of trans identity and gender identity, instinctively know that mocking trans people for their anatomy and disregarding people's pronouns is cruel. It's been difficult for many people who are aware of Rowling's statements to grasp that this former hero to generations of hopeful children is now openly prejudiced towards trans and non-binary people. So what do we do when bad people make good art, or art we loved? I'm very interested in hearing other people's opinions on this and where they stand. What are their moral lines or views on this? Because it's constantly a topic, and it will be forever, I think, a topic in the culture that is constantly ongoing. And I do believe that we as individuals and consumers hold power in what we choose to engage with. In our current society, the only real power we have as individuals in a capitalistic system is what we choose to spend our hard-earned money on, and that is how we'll get companies to listen, because they will only listen when they're losing money, because capital's what's most important for them. Dollar bills, yeah. So what we choose to support, who we choose to support and engage with, more importantly what we choose to purchase and read or go and watch in the cinema, does hold power and influence. But it comes at a cost whether you choose to acknowledge it or put your blinders on. And again, Romano writes about how supporting anything within the Harry Potter universe and J.K. Rowling as an author and individual is in a sense holding up J.K.'s views, because that's what she's become known for, and you're letting the publishers, the creatives, the people who are promoting her know that, you know, oh, I'm not really that bothered. So they go on to say that fans who look the other way inevitably sends a message that they care more about the Harry Potter universe than they do about the real world fans Rowling has hurt, and especially the real world harm that comes from bankrolling her transphobia. On another note, why do we need to continue creating like different variants of the same story in the Harry Potter universe? You know, there's been lots of adaptations already. It's already made a lot of money. There are original new concepts and ideas out there. Why don't you go make some of those? I'm a firm believer, as a reader and a consumer of different forms of art and content, that we don't need to continue to platform people with such bigoted and hurtful views. There are always going to be people who'll defend these creatives and say separate the art from the artist.
No, God!
But I'm certainly not one of them, and I know a lot of people that aren't. I'd rather go out of my way and support people who are up and coming. They want to create a more inclusive world and more accepting communities for everyone than just continue to promote and amplify someone who's dead set on being hurtful and hateful and attacking people who are less fortunate than her. And I think we're way past the point of just innocently, oh, I'm just innocently engaging with something I used to love in my childhood. And with JK, we're becoming more and more aware that she's shifting further and further right. And when will it be that you think, you know, that's too much? Is that when she starts supporting things that are going to impact you and your world, your family, your community? And like I said, there are always going to be these groups that say they separate the art from the artist. They'll die on that hill. But I personally don't believe for a second that they actually believe what they're saying. It's just a matter of what impacts you. Similar to JK, with this discussion, will Adachi continue to go down this route of digging herself further and further into JK's world and becoming more known for that than the actual work? Or is this just the women's prize kind of showcasing or testing the waters for what they stand for? Because to promote someone with those views, you're kind of giving it the green light. I just know it's not something that I want to engage with, and I'm kind of sick of seeing people promote it. But if you really can't help but engage in the Harry Potter world, it's just so important that you need it. At least buy a second-hand book. Don't directly give your money to someone whose pockets are already bursting, and stop supporting someone that's so hateful. Or better yet, give your money to someone who deserves it and is trying to start their own career. So yeah, I suppose all of this is to say in this video, put the JK books down. Step back and ask yourself, do I really want to support this person? Am I willing to die on the hill of being JK Rowling's #1 fan? Do I really want to see this person continue to profit, basically being a professional troll? Or is there a new, more exciting person that I can support, read, watch, get behind? Because you need to realise that by supporting her or people like her, you're letting the algorithm know this is okay for me. I don't really care about that, and that'll make them think we'll continue to platform and promote bigoted, horrible people. And again, it reminds me of a TikTok that I've seen.
Let's talk about the term separating the art from the artist and how it very much is just an empty statement and absolutely does not apply to J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. This statement gets thrown around willy-nilly, especially when it comes to Harry Potter. But to be honest, I feel like it's just a statement that people use to justify them not taking a step back from something that causes harm. And again, I want to preface this with the fact that I know it's difficult to distance yourself from Harry Potter when it is your support system, and I'm not saying that people just have to do it overnight. But this tweet right here is the exact reason why separating the art from the artist does not apply to J.K. Rowling. Someone asked her, how do you sleep at night knowing that you've lost a whole audience from buying your books, referring to her being a TERF, and she said, I read my most recent royalty checks and I find the pain goes away pretty quickly. If you'd like that translated, she's essentially saying that she doesn't care what she does. She doesn't care about the harm that she causes, and she doesn't care about the fact that she's turned a whole audience away from her because she's still getting money. She still gets a fuck ton of money in her royalty checks. You cannot separate the art from the artist when it comes to something that is so saturated in pop culture.
So I'm not making this video to tell you what to do. I kind of made it out of frustration, in all honesty, as someone who loves books, reading, and found a real sense of community within the online book communities. And I think we really need to realise that you can't just continue to support people until it's too late and they've gone too far. And we'll just say, for one thing, I'll always try and be an inclusive reader and support new upcoming diverse authors who want to make the world a better place, want to try and explore and tell new stories from various characters' points of views. And I'll always try my best to be an ally to the LGBTQ community and use my platform to amplify their work, even if that is a small platform. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, or it made you sort of question your own reading habits or the habits of people that you follow online and what they choose to support, read and engage with. And to be honest, I just think we need to leave the Harry Potter books in the past. It's been years, like, put it down. Sorry, that's just my opinion. But let me know your thoughts and continue the discussion below, because it is a discussion that I think we need to have together. And if you do want to do further research or engage with content about this topic, there's a really great video by the creator ContraPoints, and she's done a few videos on J.K. Rowling and her behaviour towards the trans community, so check that out. So yeah, that's the video for today. Let me know if you liked it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, because it really helps the channel out. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!